So here we are, finally, with Orion's second album, Life Is Not Beautiful. It's been 4 years since they released the first album, and over that time they've obviously grown up, seeing that the first album they were only just teenagers at the age of 17, 18, and for 4 years they're going to be around 21, 22, around that area now. But since then, they've lost that original singer who was with them for the first album, and they've got a new singer that you can see at the minute in the middle. So, yeah, we've got a new singer to work with. It's been 4 years since the last album, so they've had a fair few years to think and work on this. And talking about the first album, I gave that 7.8. It was a very good album. It was very mature for their age. Had great musicianship, amazing vocals. It was very catchy. It was very relaxing and everything. But the problem with it was very mellow. It was very relaxing. There was nothing that really gave that much of a oomph to the sound. There was nothing, that heavy. You had tracks like I Am the Storm and Burn Your Ship or something along them lines, as well as the last track that did get quite heavy, but it was still a bit in... it had that fantasy vibe going along with it, which made everything a bit kind of fairy tale sounding, even though it was heavy underneath. So it still affected it. So hopefully with this album we're going to see a bit more of a heavy metal vibe, as well as maybe some experimentation and some new sounds and new styles. So yeah, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it with the first track.
I used to live my life like a party. Day to day, night to night, I was lying, striving hard to keep it in to deny it. I didn't see how deep the flood was around me.
So this track comes immediately after an intro track that lasts 2 minutes 3 seconds. It pretty much, if you played the first album and when the last track ends, the first track of this album actually seems to fade out from that previous album's last track. So that was quite interesting when I actually pieced that together, that the last track of the first album actually fades into the opening track of this new album. So there's not much to talk about the first opening track. It's just an opener. But so let's just get into the first actual track, No One Stands in My Way, which you just heard. And off the bat, just even with that small clip, you can tell that the style has actually quite drastically changed from that first one. The opening of the song starts with the whole band. You got the kind of fantasy medievalish type of sound that has come over from that first album. But the second the lead vocalist comes in, you get that mellow sound that you'd heard with the instruments as well as the vocalist. And then eventually it kicks into that overdrive and absolute power. You get gang vocals coming in, giving it that much more of a punch in that verse. And then later on in the verse, the lead singer opens out and does more hold on to each note he does, just making it soar even more. And then the chorus, you get heavy keyboards, you get the lead vocalist doing pretty decent high notes. He's quite known for doing it in this album. He really does do them high notes a fair bit. The second time into the verse, it does that fade in and fade out thing that you heard previously, but they changed it up. The voice is actually not faded at all. It's just the instruments, and then the voice is just at the normal kind of level as you would expect. and then the instruments eventually do come back into the foreground, and then it starts kind of going again. They do some subtle change ups. You get pinched harmonics. You get some kind of holds from the actual lead guitarist, just giving it that bit of a new kind of flavor and everything. Just giving you subtle nuances just to change it up a bit. And you get back to the chorus, the typical chorus. You get a solo, and again, the guitarist isn't too overly special or amazing. The solo is, from what I can tell and in my own opinion, an improvement from the previous album. Everything seems just kind of tighter. Not that it wasn't tight in the first album, because it was kind of more kind of fluid and everything. This one's a bit more kind of sharper and is a bit more on the frontward attack. He seems to be a bit quicker as well. It's not an overly shreddy solo, but he does have a fair decent amount of speed in there. The solo lasts a fair decent while. So, yeah, the instruments seem to be way more on the attack. They have effects on their instruments. They do some holds and pinched harmonics and everything. The lead vocalist does that fluid intro, and then he goes into the normal kind of rhythm as you heard, and then eventually you get gang vocals in there, giving it even more aggression. Then you have the more kind of soaring part of the riff. Then you got the actual chorus with the keyboards getting it back to that kind of fantasy vibe. And then you get your solo and everything. You get the change up in the verse, as I said, as well. So they've changed that up. And then the solo, again, is just a step above what the guitarist has previously done. I still think he can go a long way. As I say, he's about 21 or so. So he's still very young. So I think as the band keeps progressing through albums and albums, it's going to be pretty incredible where we're going to get with this guitarist and the overall band. I think they're going to be a really, really unbelievable band. But this song already, we've got something completely different to what they've previously done, as well as holding that kind of fantasy kind of sound of the first album just a tad. But this is completely new, and the song keeps adding certain aspects. And then we get a really good, strong solo, and we have a great vocalist that is quite different compared to the original, which was more warm. This guy is a bit more kind of sharp and bright, and in the higher register, as for the other one was in the kind of low register. So this is a great start, and the song is a lot of fun. It has a lot of energy. All the kind of flows, and then back to the kind of peaks, and then the strong gang vocals, and then the soaring part, and then the fantasy chorus back into the kind of flow, but the lead singer's still punching in the foreground. Then a great solo. It's a lot of energy. It's a fantastic song, and it's a great start coming off of that opening track. So that'll be it for this track. Next track, we are into At the Break of Dawn. So At the Break of Dawn, as you've probably can tell, features a special guest, a female vocalist that is called Elise Reed. She comes from the band Amaranthi, which she's a main vocalist, as well as another male vocalist, as well as a screamer. I don't like that band, but there's no denying that she is a great vocalist in Amaranthi. She has a fantastic voice. So she's come to lend a hand in this track, At the Break of Dawn. Now the track opens up with a very kind of low volume guitars, quite bright keyboard, the kind of fantasy kind of bright keyboard kind of sound in the foreground. And then you have the male vocalist and the female vocalist both harmonize the intro together, basically singing the line At the Break of Dawn. They harmonized very well. His voice actually fits in very well with hers. And as they finish that, the entire band kind of come in for absolute high energy and everything. Not completely brutal and anything, not unbelievably quick. It's just a very high energy start. When the vocalist comes in, the first one is Elise Reed. She comes in. The guitars and everything isn't there. It's just kind of like the keyboard, and that's pretty much it with her singing. Great voice and everything, great sound along with the keyboards. And then the actual lead singer comes in with a very kind of sharp voice and everything. And the whole band comes in with him. And then you get harmonization with Elise Reed and the lead vocalist. They're both singing together. Again, working very well. One's not too low, one's not too high. They're not completely different pitches. They both pretty much flow together pretty nicely. And then it gets into the chorus, which is what you basically heard from the snippet I showed. And as you can tell, the chorus is so huge. It is just one of the greatest choruses I've kind of like heard in a fair while. It's so powerful and so full of energy, and you just kind of lose yourself with the flow of the instruments and how the vocals kind of soar and swoop together along with the instruments. It's just so impactful. It is so catchy, so memorable. It is such a powerful, unbelievably amazing chorus. As you get back into the verse, the second verse, it starts with the male vocalist this time, and then it goes to Elise, who I believe the entire band actually stick with her this time. Then you get the harmonization back into the chorus. And then the solo starts quite smoothly, not melodically. It's just it's got a nice kind of groovy pace to it and everything. A very kind of old school kind of groove to it. A nice warm pace. And then eventually he starts kind of building up the sound and the speed. So it gets quicker and quicker and quicker, and then he kind of gets quite shreddy. And then he ends it with holds that are held into that amazingly big chorus, which sounds, as I said, and as you've probably even can tell from the few seconds I showed, fantastically huge chorus. So yeah, going off the previous track, this one again is completely different. You get a female vocalist, which has never been done in Orion before, so you get a new side of that. You get the unbelievable huge chorus, unlike anything they've done. Great harmonization going on. Because of the female and the nice flow, it is kind of soothing and flowing, but again, you do have high energy when it's just a male, and then that intro, it's very aggressive, high energy. So you get two kind of contrast between that sort of thing, which is great. And the solo, as I said, it starts very kind of groovy with a nice kind of flow to it, and then eventually starts building up the sound, and then it gets kind of shreddy, and then finishes on a hold, where he just kind of holds the note, and then it kind of flows into the rest of the music as well as the chorus, and then he fades out, and then it's just the chorus again. Such an amazing song. Elise Reed is a fantastic vocalist. It's probably the best I've heard Elise Reed, actually. It's way better than in Amaranthi, because Amaranthi is just basically the same song over and over and over again, but because in this, it's Arion coming up with the idea. She just seems way more energetic, and her voice soars more than I have ever heard it soar before. It's just vocally brilliant, and just coming up with a chorus so huge and everything. It's just bravo to the guys, really. It's absolutely incredible. So that's it for this track. So next we have The Last Sacrifice.
Through the night, show the way towards the light. Through the
the last sacrifice starts pretty weird, actually. It's mellow and not really anything goes on, but then you get a massive high impact from the band as well as the vocalist doing a very high register few chord progressions with the band, but then it just cuts out to nothing. Everything just kind of stops. Like, okay, and then all of a sudden it's just back to very bright high register vocals and the very bright instruments for a few chords, and then just drum, and then that's it. It's like, okay, and then dun, it's just back again, and they do this a fair few times, about 4 or 5 times. This very high energy, very bright sound, and then just completely shut out, and then back again, and then shut down, and then back again, and then shut down yet again, and then come back again. And then after that, they actually kind of get into the flow of the song. The flow of this song is more closely represented by the first album. It's definitely more of that kind of medieval-y power metal fantasy vibe. It's not exactly the same as the first, because it's not really relaxing. It's a lot more kind of sharper. But the band for the intro, actually, it's very kind of fantasy medieval sounding intro as they go. But as the singer actually comes in, there's no guitars at all. It's just kind of the drums and the bass and things. And he's singing along at not really a quick pace or very high pitch or anything. He's just kind of grooving along at his own pace. You get kind of a duplicate of his voice, so he'll sing a part, and then he goes, and then you get him kind of coming back again, but it's slightly altered, the kind of pace and everything that he's doing. So you get like 2 kind of subtle changes to his singing. And then as you kind of come into the kind of pre-chorus, it's the whole band kind of comes in, and then you get the chorus, which is again kind of medieval sounding, not completely full-blown medieval, bit fantasy, but again not full-blown out fantasy, but it's kind of there in a certain extent. You get the high notes, it flows, and the pace goes from quick to kind of slow. As the chorus ends and you get back into the verse, the second verse, that's now completely different, because the entire band is actually there, so you get more of that kind of punch with the aggressive guitars. It sounds a lot better than the first. The first one is kind of laid back, and then you get the very high energy chorus into now the heavy metal kind of sounding verse. So again, you get change-ups showing the diversity and the progression of the songs and everything. The solo in this is probably one of the best so far, because there's kind of it's a multi-layered solo. It starts off with the kind of nice kind of grooving along, nice sounding pace and beat of the solo. And then he puts some speeds in and some other things. But then it sounds like a second guitar comes in, but obviously there's just the one guitarist. They don't even have a rhythm, it's just the lead. That is it. But it kind of cuts out, and then another guitar layer kind of comes on top of that, doing something a bit more kind of up pace and everything. And then when he finishes, you get a keyboard solo. And then after that, the guitar kind of comes in, and then I believe you kind of get a kind of dueling kind of riff kind of thing, but let's say lead, with the keyboard and the guitarist both kind of playing lead at the same time, and they're kind of like dueling against each other. So a pretty intense solo, multi-layered. You get 2 leads, the keys and the guitar, and you get them kind of dueling together. This song is the longest one so far at 6.5 minutes, so 6 minutes 31 seconds. The intro is a little weird to me. I think it may take a few listens to kind of get used to that intro. or it's just not really my thing, and I think it's a bit too kind of odd. That first riff without the kind of instruments being there, and the singer kind of going kind of rhythmic, well, there's actually not much of a rhythm beneath him, but he's going like there's a great rhythm and groove going along. Again, it's a little kind of weird. It's not the best chorus I've heard, so yeah, there's a lot going on to the song. It's still very great and everything, and the solo is great, but for me personally, it's not one of the best. It's not as good as No One Stands in My Way, as well as At the Break of Dawn. But I would kind of argue this is the most diverse song. It goes the furthest and everything. But let's get into the next track, which is called Through Your Falling Tears.
I'm running out of time. No time to waste, 'cause I'll be going down the river of my twilight years while it's roaring. You'll find the way.
So Through Your Falling Tears is the first melodic track off of the album Life Is Not Beautiful. There's not really much to say about the track, so let's just get through it. It starts with pianos. You get some acoustic that comes in later in the introduction. It sounds very nice, the piano. It's a great classic sounding piano. It's beautiful. The acoustic that comes in is very, very nice. When the vocalist comes in, the kind of acoustic disappears. It's just pretty much the lead vocalist along with the piano. And that's how it kind of goes for the opening verse. It's his voice obviously isn't as sharp as he's actually been doing before. This is the most laid back we kind of get from him so far, and it's nice. It shows how varied his voice is and all the different styles he's capable of. So it's great to hear this from him and everything, and it's great to hear a completely different pace and style from what we've heard so far. The piano is really, really nice. It's a beautiful song. The pre-chorus, the acoustic guitar does kind of come back in. Then you get the chorus, which you got a clip of a bit of the chorus. Just a little bit more upbeat and everything, but still melodic. Very nice sounding, very beautiful. The second verse, the guitars actually remain the acoustic, and then he does a few, them sort of kind of leads here and there, just dun and just kind of fade out, and then back into the rhythm of the song, and then he'll do a bit of a lead somewhere else. Just adding some nice, beautiful leads throughout the verse, kind of along the likes of what you get from some of the great guitarists to basically let the song kind of speak for itself, and then they just kind of put a lead in just where there's a gap for it. Nicely done and everything. You get back to the chorus, and then after the chorus you get a kind of piano, very light interlude. And you get back into the chorus where the acoustics kind of get a bit more aggressive. Obviously it's not going to be aggressive like they're doing speed metal or anything. It's just a bit kind of louder and everything. And they do a bit more, put a bit more into it. And that's pretty much it. You don't get a solo, which is very disappointing, seeing that this is a piano and acoustic kind of song. Why not do an acoustic solo? It was a great opportunity to do one, but no, they didn't. But nevertheless, it is a very beautiful song. It kind of gives us a break from the more kind of bombastic stuff they've been doing. And it's a solid melodic. It's not boring. It's not overly repetitive and too slow. They have some nice leads in there. There's nice flow to it. They have the sort of soaring moments. So it's really well done. But that is pretty much it for this track. So let's get into the next one, which is called Unforgivable. Unforgivable starts out pretty 70s disco sounding. You get that kind of electronic sound in it. The keyboards are extremely heavy. It's got at the start of the song, the drums doing some aggressive hits, and then pause for that kind of 70s keyboard pop subtle sound. And then eventually it builds up, and then the entire band comes in, and the keyboards are very, very aggressive in the intro. Very old school poppy 70s sounding keyboards, but they're very up in your face. And the entire band are going, so it is kind of full energy. When the singer comes in, the band pretty much disappears. You just kind of get him singing along with the keyboard and everything. And then the band come in a bit more into the verse, and the kind of guitar is playing a bit kind of dark and aggressively, but because of the brightness of the keyboard, that kind of makes that kind of vibe kind of go out the window. And the chorus, the whole band is there. It's very bright, very kind of dancey, very upbeat. Again, kind of poppy, I would say, to an extent, and very 70s disco vibe. As they get back into the verse, the guitars do remain the whole time. And then you get back into the chorus. The solo, again, it's kind of rhythmic at first, and then it gets a bit more kind of shred-based. And it doesn't last that very long, actually, this one. It starts out nice and rhythmic, and then he starts building the speed up, and then it kind of just shuts it off, which isn't great, unfortunately. It's still good for what you kind of get, but I expect a bit more out of what was shown. You just kind of expect more from the way it was going. So yeah, basically, again, we get another kind of diverse song, something completely different. We've never had the 70s popish metal song from Arion, even on the previous album. So far, every single track has been completely different. So this is kind of going quite well. And it's still a high-energy song, and it's still got the metal in it, but it has got a 70s kind of pop feel. So if that's not your thing, you may struggle with this one, but if you can accept it, then you should appreciate this and the diversity given here. So that's it for this track. The next track is going to be called Punish You. So Punish You is probably the most accessible song. It's pretty much a typical metal rock song. So off the bat you get thundering drums, and then the entire band comes in, except one person, the keyboardist. The keyboardist is actually not in the song at all. So it's basically just the heavy metal element of it. Not that keyboards can't be, but you don't get the kind of brightness. It's just a full kind of sharp aggression. So the song starts with the thunderous drums, and the entire band kind of comes in. Everything is very heavy, very beefy. Heaviest track on the album by far, so far. And when the singer comes in, the band does cut out, and then it's just him singing with the drums. And then as the singer takes a break, you get a few kind of chugs from the guitar, then they leave, and then the singer comes back in with just the drums, take a break, a few chugs with the guitar, they take a break, singer. And that goes until you get to the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus is got the entire band going, so chugs along until you get into that chorus, which is the clip I showed, a bit of the pre-chorus as well as the chorus. So you can tell the chorus is he saws them lines that he sings. It's very powerful, very high pitch, and then it goes into a nice grooving flow. Then it goes back into the high pitch screams, and sounds amazing. It's a great, obviously, show from the vocal standpoint, and then again back to the more rhythmic side of the chorus. Back to the verse. And the verse is pretty much exactly the same. So is the chorus. As I say, it's one of the more simplistic, but just pure heavy metal rock song. The solo here, though, this is the fastest he's done. He goes absolutely ballistic. It's a really, really quick solo. He changes it up, so he'll take a break from doing a certain pattern, then do a different kind of shred pattern, then kind of change it up to do a more shreddish pattern. And then at one point, you get the backing music actually kind of shredding along with him, very kind of thick sounding, making everything really thick and very quick at the same time. It's seriously the fastest I've seen him. It is really quick. It'd be good to see a bit more of it as their careers kind of go on. Because obviously we've got a fair few variations. We've had the kind of rhythmic side. We haven't really got a melodic side because he skipped that over the melodic track. But we've definitely got a good rhythmic side from him. We've seen some speed, and then here we see he has a lot of speed, more than we've ever seen. We didn't know he could do this. So going forward, I would like to see a bit more speed, a bit more from the rhythm, longer solos as well as rhythm. But yeah, back to basically Punish You. Short, basic track, very heavy, very aggressive. Great soaring lead vocals in the chorus with the kind of nice soaring chorus overall with the more rhythmic side to it, and back to the soaring, which is great, and great speed metal solo. So again, very good track. Then we get on to the title track of the album, Life Is Not Beautiful. So Life Is Not Beautiful is the longest track on the album at 6 minutes, 41 seconds, I believe. So the longest one. It's also the biggest one, as in it's the one they put the most into, so it's got a lot more to it than the track The Last Sacrifice, which was 6 minutes and a half. It's got the kind of fantasy vibe to it as this kind of starts, but it's very aggressive, really quick in the intro. You get eventually a fantasy sound, but it's really eerie as the instruments are kind of going, but that fantasy element is still kind of lingering, but it also sounds very eerie along with the kind of dark, aggressive, eerie music. But it's flown really well. Like, it's very, very dark, very aggressive with that fantasy sound coming in off of the aggressive intro. When the singer comes in, it's more just a basic kind of aggressive metal, but definitely more progressive. It's not straightforward sounding at all. You get it's very aggressive, it's very hard hitting, but you get leads from the guitarist. So he's doing sharp aggressive bends, sharp aggressive whammy hits and everything throughout the verse. Eventually the singer in the verse changes it up and just is a bit more open with the voice, so he gives every line a bit more time. And then it changes again for the pre-chorus, which you heard in the snippet I showed, which goes a bit bombastic. Then you get your break, which leads into the chorus. Now, as you can tell, the lead vocalist again, saying life is not beautiful, just how sharply and high he screams that. And then he's still kind of high screaming, but it's more fluid as he kind of sings after that back into saying life is not beautiful. But everything is just sharp and just so attacking and absolutely in your face as he does it all. It's great vocal delivery, absolute showmanship of power and control of his voice and everything. And you get back into the verse with all the insane changes and the kind of guitarist doing the kind of aggressive leads throughout. Back into that really powerful in-your-face chorus, very sharp and aggressive. And then after that, you get a few kind of things. You get the typical metal stuff, and then you get interludes. soft and aggressive. And then the solo lasts a decent while, but again, I would like to see more. I would like to see really long solos from this guy, because it kind of just seems that he kind of fades in and then does a bit of that rhythm again, then a bit of speed, and then he kind of just fades out. What he does is great. It's just you need more, and that's again a problem with this song. Life is not beautiful, but as I say, you get a massive intro and everything. Calm at the beginning, and then kind of aggressive metal, then fantasy sounding, but it is unbelievably dark and eerie sounding. Then the singer kind of comes in with the typical more metal style. Then his voice opens up a bit, and then you get the pre-chorus, changing it up, and then you get the aggressive chorus, and then you get back to the kind of verse and chorus, so that kind of repeats. But then after that, you get at least 2 or 3 changes, and then you get the solo back into the chorus. It's a very, very big song. It's very aggressive. It's got that kind of progressive metal vibe to it, definitely. Subtle fantasy sounds, subtle kind of just progressive metal sounds as well. It's all over the place. It's a very intense, in-depth song. So that's it for that track, and then we get into our last track. So let's finish this off, guys.
I still wonder who I walk through the fire. I stand by the...
Wait. This is him. This isn't Arion, it's him. Seriously? Is Vil Vallo featured in this song? That's the actual singer. You're kidding. That is Arion, and that is the actual singer. Jesus, the diversity on this guy's voice. Okay, guys, so this last track, a melodic, and as you can tell, the lead vocalist sounds nothing like himself. He sounds kind of like the lead singer of Him, the singer Vil Vallo, I think. That's his name. I think that's also how you pronounce it. But there's not really much to the song. It's just a typical melodic song. Again, there's no solo. But definitely the singer sounds completely different to what we've heard of him previously. It sounds nothing like him, but it is actually him. So we get a completely new style to his voice, a completely new kind of sound. It's way more melodic than the other melodic track, Through Your Tears. It's got some feminine kind of sound in there, orchestra sound, not orchestra, choir sound. You do get an actual orchestra in places, so like violin sounding stuff and things. The song progresses very slowly. It's just kind of the vocalist, and then you get the kind of pianos. Then you get the kind of female kind of choir. It's very subtle. Whenever they kind of come in, it's really, really subtle. Then you get some subtle choir stuff in with the kind of violins and everything, just very slowly. You do kind of get a part where you feel there could potentially be a solo, because the singer stops, everything kind of stops. You just kind of get pianos, and then the drum kind of comes in very subtly, just a few kind of taps here and there, and then that goes for a fair while and everything, and then it kind of feels like it's building up to something, and then the chorus just kind of comes back, and it's just like, well, what a waste of an opportunity where a solo would have perfectly fitted. And again, a solo on a song that is completely unlike anything else. It would have been a great opportunity to do an acoustic solo, a melodic solo, just anything. It would be different. It would also give a bit more diversity to the song. But no, unfortunately not. It's a weird song to end on as well, because it's very melodic and slow, so you don't really end on high energy or anything. But still, it's a good track because you get the new sound of the lead singer, who, as I say, sounds a lot like him, but it's still Arion and everything, and still the actual singer. So still more diversity to end the album on. So that is the end of the album. So that is it for the new album by Arion, Life Is Not Beautiful. So if you have the Digipack version, you get 3 extra tracks, so 3 more, but they're not new tracks, they're just 3 tracks off the original album, but they're done in 2018. And all this basically means is it's just been redone with the new vocalist. That is it. All the music and everything, production, it's all exactly the same. They just put the new singer in, which is interesting to see, obviously, to hear the comparison from the original and the new singer. It does kind of add a new kind of style to it, because this guy is a lot more kind of sharp and aggressive in his style and delivery. So the songs do sound a bit more heavy because of the vocalist, instead of the really nice, warm, relaxing voice of the original. But overall, I'd say I still prefer the original. The original is the original. It is completely different and diverse. It is a very relaxing and very strong voice. And it was made for that vocalist. So when this new singer does the song 7, that great chorus where he goes, whoa, and 7 days, 7 weeks, and it is very kind of bright and everything, and great hold and control of the voice and everything. I find this lead singer kind of wrecks it, unfortunately. He doesn't hold it as well, it doesn't soar as well. He's just way too sharp as he's trying to soar this chorus, because it's supposed to be a warm soar and everything, but this guy, it's just a bit sharp, which kind of wrecks what it should be. But it's still great to see and hear and everything. So yeah, you get 3 tracks off the previous album just with the new singer. But yeah, that is it. So overall, what do I think? Well, overall, I am extremely disappointed. Now, I'm pretty sure none of you expected that. You're just thinking, that makes no sense. I've praised this album and everything for the most part. How can I be disappointed? So I'll explain it to you. You get 9 tracks. That is it. It's just 9 tracks. And the first track is just an intro. So technically, you have 8 tracks, and that is it. And you get 2 kind of long tracks, but the others are quite short. So the total length of the album is 39 minutes. But if you exclude the intro, you get in around 37 minutes. And that is it. So 37 minutes, it's like just kind of over half an hour. It's pathetic. Metal albums are usually around 50 minutes, going into an hour sometimes. That is kind of what I expect. They've had 4 years since their previous album, and they come out with 8 new tracks, and that's all they've accomplished. 8 tracks that last like around 37 minutes. That is all they've managed. It's just, I feel lacking in material here. Like I'm not really getting my value here. It's really disappointing. Now, of course, if you add the 3 bonus tracks, which are all around the 4-minute mark, you're probably going to get into the 50s, so around 53 minutes, perhaps. And that is a proper length album. So, does that forgive it? Well, no, it doesn't forgive it, because they're not new tracks. It's just old tracks we've heard before, just with the new singer. It's nothing new. It's supposed to be a bonus, just to show you the new singer, not to basically give you the proper length of the album like the actual feature songs. I just feel like it was a cheap kind of way to kind of give more to the album, to make it actually the length of a full-length album. But the songs are not for the album, really. It's basically just a bonus, which is what it is, a bonus, just to show how the new singer sounds compared to the old singer in the original songs. That is it. So it doesn't forgive it. It's not unforgivable. I'm glad I have them 3 songs, but I consider the album with the 9 we really get, and as I said, one of them's an intro, so you only get 8 tracks, which is appalling. Now, Iron Maiden's Power Slave is only 8 tracks. So is that unforgivable and terrible? Well, no, not really, because them 8 tracks are very, very long in length. The album is very, very long in length, so you get your value. You get longevity and a great long album out of it. Here, it's 37 minutes. It's appalling. I don't know how they've done this with 4 years and everything. If I try and think about it, the only thing I can kind of come up with was their original album. They were very, very young, 17, 18. They did that TV show to kind of get recognition and everything. They came 5th place. Then they got with a producer. It's the first time making an album and everything. So they probably kept it a bit safe with that kind of warm, relaxing sound and didn't really push the boundaries. Now they've gone and pushed the boundaries, and you can tell they've pushed the boundaries because every song is completely different. It's all over the place. One song does not flow into the other. It's just this is completely different, like it would be in a completely different band. It still has the core of what Orion is. That every song is very, very different. They have tried. They have pushed. All the songs are brilliantly done. They are incredible. So I think they kind of lost focus. They were all up in their head, trying to push the boundaries, trying to go completely out of their comfort zone. Then they had to deal with the new singer and everything. And I think they just kind of tried so hard to get so much diversity and evolution to their sound and everything that maybe it wasn't that easy for them. Maybe it actually took them that long to come up with so much diversity and different ideas and techniques, and then really, really work on them. So it took a while to do all of that, and then eventually when they kind of did it, a lot of time was spent, and then a lot of time focusing to get the songs nailed and perfect, and then it kind of turned out that they actually only had pretty much 8 songs in very short time. So I think they kind of just got kind of lost in the whole setup of the album, which is really unfortunate. So, how to score this? You get 8 amazing tracks, all extremely diverse, sung really well. The music is brilliant, the keyboard tones and everything, and the piano, unbelievable. The duet with Elise Reed, unbelievable, huge chorus. You get some pretty great leads. Punish You has an incredible speed lead solo, and then you get a solo which God, what song was it? The Last Sacrifice, was it, where you had the kind of dueling. So it was guitar, then a different kind of tone guitar, then you get a keyboard, then you get the guitar, and then guitar and keyboard both together. Amazingly great, amazingly diverse and everything. So to that extent, it is a great album. But then again, they've had 4 years and they've only produced 8 tracks. And it lasts 37 minutes. Now, this is not good enough. So I gave the first album a 4. Not a 4. I gave the first album a 7.8. Now, this album is better. There's more to it and everything. So does that mean this album's better? Well, yeah, it is. But the first album was around 50 minutes. This is 37. And only has 8 tracks compared to the first one, which had 10. Well, technically 9, because the first one was an intro, but the tracks were longer. So should it be worse than that album because of this, even though the album is overall better? I'm going to cut them a break, because I just think they did so well and they've come so far and everything with what they have given us, and what they've given us has been golden. So I will take it from the score of 6, which is above average, and then 7 is good. I'll take it up to the level of great. This is a great album, which is 8. And it does go beyond that, but because they've kind of irritated me so much, I'm going to only give it the 1 point more, so 8.1. it slightly just gets above great. But they seriously could have gone to 8.5 up to 9 if they gave more tracks and more longevity to the songs. It could have easily reached 9. It is so unfortunate. And what makes it even worse for me is they released 4 tracks. So I've heard 4 tracks, and I've heard them for a while now. Meaning, when this album dropped, I had the excitement of 3 tracks, and that was it. That was the album over. I just get 3 other tracks. And other than that, I've basically heard everything. So there's nothing really new about this. It's just like I've got an EP from them, even though it is a kind of full-length album. It's just disappointing. If all of this is new to you, then it's going to be an amazing treat and it's going to be superb. But because they released 4, they've shot themselves in the foot, and I'm going to shot myself in the foot because I've kind of wrecked it for myself. Because there's actually not much there, which is disappointing. But it is a great album. Everything's solid. The singer's amazing. The song structure and the diversity, unbelievably well. Good solos. So it's a great album, 8, and it goes a bit beyond that, so 8.1, but because of just be 8 tracks and just lasting 37 minutes, you seriously hindered yourself, which is why you've lost a lot, because if you didn't do that, you could have gone up to 9. I do think you could have done it. So, extremely unfortunate, but still 8.1 is a great score and everything, and I hope that after this, the third album is along the lines of this, extremely diverse, but has longer songs and more tracks, and then just keep working on them solos, make them last longer, have more diversity, start doing acoustic and actually play lead in your melodic songs. It'd be great to hear you do a melodic. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for Arion now. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.